The morning of the floods, I was working in the dispatch center. We had 9 people on. We had up-staffed just in case something did come of the storm. We started getting the first round of calls reporting the flame or flare that was being seen in the sky throughout Montecito.
The explosion happened and we saw the large 300-400 foot flames up in Montecito. And about that time, we started hearing radio traffic that the various fire engines were not able to get there because the road was blocked.
We were up at QAD in Summerlin, the big hill in Summerlin. When the rain hit, about 3:30 in the morning when it got really heavy, I drove down the hill and it was blocked in every direction that I tried to go. The freeway, East Valley Road, Sheffield Drive, they were all blocked. My immediate concern was getting to the people that needed help.
California Highway Patrol officers had similar problems. 2 CHP officers were responding to a call of a structure fire when they unknowingly drove right into the path of the mud flow.
There is a very active mudslide coming down Olive Mill. It overtook our vehicle as we were heading north on Olive Mill. We were able to barely escape.
The rain cells just happened to focus on the main burn areas above Montecito.
Get out of here! Get out of here! Get out of here! Go! Go!
It was pretty intense. It was raining very, very hard. So hard that it was hard to see 10 feet in front of you when you're driving.
The flash flood's right there! Get out of here, go! Oh my God, Mom!
A little after 4, it was just nonstop for about a good 90 minutes plus of 911's alternate lines just ringing without any break.
Yes, I need help. Let's stand to Isabel Lane.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Your phone's cutting in and out. What is going on at the address?
The house is about to be washed away. We need help.
And it was everything that you can imagine, from I'm trapped in my house but I'm safe to I'm stuck in the upstairs and it's flooded everything in my downstairs.
You need to come to our house. Our house is filled with mud. I have a newborn.
I understand that.
We're gonna die.
You have a 2-story house? Can you get up out of the...
No, it's 1 story.
Okay. All right, we do have your call, okay?
We'd be up to our necks in mud if we tried to get off our bed. I don't know if we're gonna live.
Okay, we're trying to get you help though, okay? Just get as high as you can.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
There was trees 2 to 3 feet in diameter, 20, 30 feet long, piled on the top of the road. So we were having a little frustrating time trying to get into the area.
Mike, get in the car! Mike, get in the car! Get in the car, Mike! Get in the car! Back up.
Some people said I'm here, but when guys got there said that house isn't here anymore, and realized that yeah, they're still in their house, but their house had either moved from where the address marker was or wasn't a recognizable address from the mud just covering any signage.
Very infrequently do we deal with the amount of mud and debris that we had to deal with in this instance. Just logistically getting from point A to point B, it's 10 times harder than walking through 10 feet of snow. It's amazing how difficult it can be. Vehicles couldn't go through 8-10 feet of mud, so ultimately the search and rescue people as well as the fire people, they just had to hike through it, including the dogs that came there. And that's very taxing.
It was really scary. We have an 8-year-old in the house. You couldn't see anything for hours because it was so dark outside. Finally, the light started coming. We started seeing some help come.
The majority of the debris flow that came down from the canyons brought along rocks and trees, and as it came down and hit the upper areas of the Montecito urban area, it started collecting a lot of additional debris, cars. One time I saw a refrigerator floating by. There were a lot of cars that had flown down, and so we were checking those cars to make sure there wasn't anybody in that. And then we came to the Oaks neighborhood. One of our members noticed a light blinking up in an attic of a house. And we went to investigate, and we made voice contact with the father of a family of 5 that had been trapped. At that point, we initiated a rescue, and we spent a couple hours in that neighborhood rescuing a couple dozen people from their houses.
What I call legitimate rescues, where people are hurt and they would have been hurt further had they not been rescued, there was dozens.
The rescues included 14-year-old Lauren Canton, who'd been buried for hours in mud and debris and was pulled out by firefighters who heard her cries.
As far as just rescues of getting people out of the mud-infected area and getting them somewhere else, there was hundreds.
The Coast Guard responded almost immediately that morning as soon as the first light hit with their helicopters. In addition to the Coast Guard, we had our air support unit, which responded that morning as well with 2 Huey helicopters. We also had a Ventura County Sheriff's Office helicopter. So we had an incredible response in terms of initial rescue helicopters that made it to Santa Barbara.
It was surreal to see 6 or 7 helicopters all doing hoist rescues side by side. That's just not something that we trained for. It's not something I ever thought that I would see. It was probably as close to a Hurricane Katrina type rescue incident as we're probably going to see in this county. I think people who tried to get out of their homes and tried to get to safer ground quickly realized that as soon as they stepped in that mud, I mean, they were just engulfed in it. You know, they couldn't get out of it. The helicopter was a very necessary tool for that morning.
Calls started coming in of bodies littering the various parts from basically the beach all the way up to Olive Mill and Hot Springs. And unfortunately, that is our job, and we had to be the ones to go and do body recovers.
There were people that were out walking around and trying to see what happened, which made doing rescues a little bit challenging. Well, obviously, we were trying to recover those that had passed, which took quite a bit of time. Most of the mud that I went through was probably close to waist deep, so it was pretty challenging, especially doing the recoveries. It was hard to get through the mud, and we tended to have to walk long distances because we couldn't necessarily get our cars through a lot of the portions, so we'd have to walk in. You know, I've been doing this job a long time, and I guess going through my mind was we got to keep working, so which we did.
Deputies worked around the clock to help determine who was accounted for and who was still missing. A family assistance center was set up to help families find their loved ones.
The highest priority right now really is the effort to find the 3 Montecito residents who are still missing. All of these people are missing from households where other family members have perished. Teams of search crews are actively searching areas where these victims may be in the hopes of finding them and providing closure to their agonized family members.
The coroner's office worked to identify and notify those who lost loved ones to this tragedy. In all, we lost presumably 23 members of our community from 2 years of age to 89 years old.
We've had search dogs on the team since the 1960s, and they've been instrumental in helping us search for people. These dogs are both what we call live subject finders, but also cadaver dogs, and look for people that are deceased. And we use them quite extensively during the debris flow. As far as team members, the dogs bring to us an ability to perform a skill that we can't do because of their sense of smell. I've been on searches that the dogs have found people both alive and deceased that we would never have found them.
Over the first week of the debris flow, we rescued countless people.
The armored vehicles were instrumental in saving lives and performing rescues. Your conventional vehicles could not get to where we needed to go. So by having those vehicles, we were able to do rescues and no doubt save lives in the end.
We were able to access 2-story balconies and rooftops and make evacuations through there. We evacuated chickens, dogs, roosters, I think a couple of goats at one point, and we're really able to help people get to where they needed to be.
In the aftermath, Montecito was left in shambles, prompting a massive cleanup effort. The 101 was completely covered with mud and was shut down in both directions for 12 days. Resources were brought in from near and far to help with the cleanup.
Escorting people in that for the first time they were seeing their houses that had been destroyed or damaged heavily, and some of them knew their house was destroyed, completely demolished, but it was their first time really seeing it, and that ended up being a pretty emotional event for everyone.
The threat's not gone away. The threat is still there. So the community has to be aware of it, not panicked or scared, but aware and prepared. The watershed is so damaged, it's going to take years before it actually gets healthy again and grows back to where it will be less likely to move.
And looking towards the future to prepare, I think the most important thing is for everybody that lives, in the potential affected areas to have a plan. Talk to your children if you have children. Have a communication plan with people outside the area so you can let them know that you're okay.
Know what you're going to do, and this should be thought of beforehand. Know what things you're going to take, medicines, glasses, documents, and part of that plan is know where you're going to go.
I've lived here and worked here for 20 years, so I call this home. Santa Barbara community in of itself has really come together in this, in this tragedy. And it's unfortunate that it takes that, but it also shows the dedication, it shows the solitude of the people, it shows the willingness to help, our fellow community members. So it's pretty amazing.
That's what makes our community, is the ability to reach out and help those that either are in distress or they may not have as much. I've been fortunate to grow up in this community, and I've seen this year in, year out of others stepping up to help others, and that's just what makes Santa Barbara, Santa Barbara.
It's amazing to see the response and see how many people are getting involved, and it's not just the first responders anymore. It's seeing everyday citizens who have nothing to do with first responders or public safety wanting to do something to help out and help their fellow citizens in the area, and I think it's great.
And even though we're from different departments, the community of first responders, when we come together for these emergencies, we have very good communication from the fire departments or from police departments or from the highway patrol. And the minute we put those calls out, everyone responds. They knew what the mission was, and we all worked very well together.
It's something that's very interesting to be a part of, and all of the brothers and sisters I work with in the public safety community, it's great to see how well they come together despite the uniform.
The Sheriff's Office is a very spread out organization, very decentralized. We have a lot of functions that we do. But everybody had a piece of this in one way or another, both before and during and certainly subsequent to the event. People really stepped up and they really did what they had to do to protect our community, to respond to this awful situation, and then to assist people in the aftermath of it. And I've had countless people explain how appreciative they have been of our deputies and our support personnel in their empathy and in their compassion and in their assistance. And what makes me proud is that they've done this not just on a one-off basis on the day that it happened, but this has been a sustained effort over the course of weeks, and it will go into months. And we've never been tested that way before, but we certainly were tested this time, and I think rose to the occasion.